हाय, मैं हूं अपूर्वा शेठ और मैं स्वागत करता हूं आपका द राइट चॉइसेस विद ओरेकल्स ऑफ दलाल स्ट्रीट के 49th एपिसोड पे। पिछले एपिसोड में हम प्रभाकर कुडवा जी से बात कर रहे थे और इनसे हमने कंपनीज की क्वार्टरली अर्निंग्स को कैसे इवेलुएट करते हैं ये जाना। इसके बाद हमने मैनेजमेंट क्वालिटी की भी बात की और मैनेजमेंट क्वालिटी को कैसे परख सकते हैं ये भी बात की। आज के इस एपिसोड में हम अपने कॉन्वर्सेशन को कंटिन्यू करेंगे, कंपनी से कैसे एग्जिट लेंगे ये बात करेंगे और बहुत सारे केस स्टडीज़ और एग्जाम्पल्स भी देखेंगे। तो चलिए इस एपिसोड को शुरू करते हैं। सो अभी इसके बाद जो बात आती है कि हाउ डू यू एग्जिट फ्रॉम दीज स्टॉक्स, सो व्हेन डू यू कम टू नो कि अभी इसमें से बाहर निकलने का सही वक्त आ गया है, तो ये कैसे पता करते हैं?
उसमें दो दो चीजें देख सकते हैं आप। एक तो टाइम पीरियड, जैसे मैंने बोला कि फर्स्ट क्वार्टर इज लाइक टू टू अर्ली, सेकंड क्वार्टर इज द स्वीट स्पॉट, थर्ड और फोर्थ क्वार्टर के बाद मार्केट को मतलब पूरा प्राइस इन हो जाता है। सो थर्ड और फोर्थ क्वार्टर ऑफ गुड अर्निंग्स विल प्राइस थिंग्स इन, कि उसके बाद कुछ ज्यादा, अनलेस इट कीप्स ग्रोइंग एट अ वेरी हाई रेट इवन आफ्टर दैट, मार्केट प्राइस कर लेता है। गुड एग्जांपल ऑफ दैट इज द ब्रोकिंग स्टॉक्स, लुक एट एंजल और समथिंग लाइक दैट, राइट। जब इनिशियली वो सरप्राइज आया बिकॉज ऑफ द बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड, एवरीबडी स्टार्टेड डूइंग वेल एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, ऑल द ब्रोकिंग कंपनीज, राइट। तो पहले जो सरप्राइज आया तो मार्केट गॉट वेरी एक्साइटेड इन द फर्स्ट टू क्वार्टर्स, and then even though they have maintained the numbers in the last couple of quarters, the stock has gone nowhere.
It's trading in a range.
It's trading in a range, and so that is one. And it's probably a matter of time that it again starts slowly, drifting downwards unless some new information comes, right? Because this run rate is priced in by the market. Now, this is not a market wants surprise. अभी सरप्राइज नहीं है, अभी हो गया है। तो अभी ये सेम नंबर आप रिपीट करते रहोगे, तो अगर अगले साल आप सेम नंबर रिपीट करते हो, then your growth will fall from 30% to 0%, because you have gone through that low base का जो पीरियड होता है। तो आपका 4 क्वार्टर हो गए अभी, तो नेक्स्ट ईयर these high base will become the base for the next year, right? These higher numbers will become the base. तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपका यूएस में उसको easy comps बोलते हैं, easy comparison, because if you have a low base then you can justify those 30%, 40%, 50% headlines. बट अगर आपका लास्ट 4 क्वार्टर्स में बम्पर नंबर्स आया है, तो अगले 4 क्वार्टर्स आपके will not be so great. So one is, after three or 4 quarters or somewhere in that range of good numbers, you can be sure that ये price in हो गया है, unless it's a special company which can continue to grow even on that higher base, unless there is something, there is some tailwind, जैसे पेज के साथ हुआ या आयशर के साथ हुआ, they were able to keep growing at 30% for 4-5 years, and that is when we saw कि कैसे उनका re-rating over, price kept on going up, the P kept on expanding, right, till one point where the growth stopped. So there are very few such special companies जहाँ पे आपको उस टाइप का 3-4-5 साल का 30% कैगर मिलेगा। इन सब most of the companies, 80%, 90% of the companies 3-4 क्वार्टर में हो जाता है प्राइस, right? So that is one way to look at it. Yeah, and other thing is to look out for peak margins. जनरली क्या होता है ना, गुड टाइम्स में सब कुछ एक साथ आता है। अगर आपका टॉप लाइन बढ़ रहा है, आपका ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज मिल रहा है, आपके मार्जिन्स, सो मार्जिन्स व्हेन दे बिकम सिग्निफिकेंटली हाई, दैट इज आल्सो वन हिंट फॉर यू टू स्टार्ट गेटिंग आउट, बिकॉज आपका मार्जिन्स 4%, 5% से चालू हुआ, तभी 15% पे आ गया है, and so you have to think, are these margins sustainable? If the margins are super high, then that is one hint that it's going to be very difficult to trounce these numbers in the future. So that is the other broad checkpoint that I keep, other than the time frame of 3 to 4 quarters. The margin is one of the key numbers which tells you that they've hit a peak in terms of the earnings, and the market in most cases will sense that, and you will observe that before the next quarter result comes, the price would have already corrected 20-25%. The market is very, very smart. It would have already sensed the margin peak, और रिजल्ट आने से पहले ही वो 10-15%, 20% गिर जाता है। रिजल्ट आने के बाद जब दिखता है कि मार्जिन कंप्रेशन होगा तो और 15-20% गिरता है।
Okay.
So people who wait for earnings to come, that is one more factor, right? So जो ये लोग जो earnings पे आप buy कर सकते हैं, but आप earnings पे sell नहीं कर सकते। You cannot wait for the bad earnings to come. You have to be in an anticipation mode. You have to anticipate कि हाँ आगे क्या हो सकता है। So that is the whole game. The whole art is that. The whole art is anticipating continuously कि अगले 3-4 क्वार्टर में क्या होने वाला है और अगले एक क्वार्टर में या 2 क्वार्टर में क्या होने वाला है, if not 3 or 4 quarters, and trying to take bets on the basis of that.
So the stock market is a game of staying 2 steps ahead of your counterpart.
Yes,
तो
absolutely, absolutely.
तो ये आपको रोज का रोज बेसिस पे करते ही रहना पड़ेगा।
That is where the alpha is. If you're looking at most retail investors, everybody, including me, all of us at some point, we are all at some point we get fixated on the past data. कि मैं fundamentals देखूंगा या पहला पुराना price action देखूंगा. Nothing matters, right? Chart patterns don't matter. You know, chart patterns are what has happened in the past. So any chart pattern can change to any other pattern if a specific event happens. So what matters is, again, coming back, what matters is the perception of the future outcomes. So if you have a very nice trending chart, you look at the charts of Bakranji and PC Jewelers, all of these guys, they had beautiful charts in the uptrend. So one bad news and the whole chart went from such a beautiful chart to one of the most ugliest charts. So it is that's also, it's all about the future. I think if there's one takeaway from this whole talk, the whole game is about anticipating what is likely to happen in the short to medium term.
Sure. So now can we take a few case studies or examples of stocks where you had identified these beautiful changes in earnings? So I have the list of these stocks like Cosmo Films, Nahar, Globus, Trident. So can you share some of your experience with these stocks?
Sure. So yeah, so some of these stocks, so these, I mean, these not necessarily owned by me or my firm, right? So that's a disclaimer. So, but purely from an educational perspective, I had listed out those stocks. Some of them might have been owned by us, but yeah, all of these stocks, which some of the stocks I mentioned earlier also, right? All of these stocks, whether so I spoke about KPR, so the entire textile pack, right? You just go to go to screener.com or any other site and just look at the jump in the top line margins and the cash flows and the EPS of the textile companies 3-4 quarters back, and it will be so stark. It's right there in front of your eyes that the numbers were just starting to go out of the out of the park. So whether it was KPR, whether it was Nahar, whether it was Vardhaman, all of these companies, started giving the signs 3-4 quarters back itself, that something interesting is happening here. And since then, if you look at the, compare that with the, with the stock prices and how they have done, and there's a 1:1 correlation. There is no doubt in my mind that the single most important factor that the market looks for is the the growth in the top line or the bottom line, right? That is the only thing that matters. Similarly, like I said, going away from the actual earnings, right? If you look at something like CG Power, right? So CG Power was a very hated stock, right? And in the sense that not the consumer, the other one, right? So they got demerged and it listed at around 40 rupees. तो 40 रुपए पे वो लिस्ट हुआ और उसके बाद आई थिंक थापर्स वर द द मैनेजमेंट एंड वो स्टॉक ऑल द वे मेरे ख्याल से 5 रुपए तक आया, 5-6 रुपए तक आया. उसके बाद न्यूज आया कि मुरुगप्पा विल टेक ओवर, right? Nothing changed, right? The balance sheet didn't change, the PL didn't change, nothing changed, and the stock went up from 6 rupees to 60 rupees. And from there, now it's gone to 180, 190 rupees. But the journey from 6 to 60 rupees happened in the absence of any other data point other than a management change. So so again, it comes back to that. So what did the management change tell the markets? Management change told the markets that this company is priced for bankruptcy, where the earnings are not only zero but they're negative. But now with this management, they are going to be a profitable company. That was the only thing that the market wanted to know, and it was a management which has proven its worth over the years. If it was some other random company or a private equity firm taking over CG Power, the story would have been completely different. Because it was Murugappa, right? Because it was the guys who have an operational track record of running such companies, the market immediately started re-rating CG Power. And so sometimes you don't even need earnings. You just need to understand where the stock is currently in the journey, and what is that delta. Is what is the change that can happen to the earnings of the stock. That is all sort of need to know. So CG Power is one such example. I gave you an example of Angel, right? So again, it was last year when the broking numbers were just going through the roof, so many demat accounts being opened and all of that. It was a clear tailwind which was reflecting in the numbers. To go back and see how the numbers of Angel jumped, I think Q1 or Q2 of last year, how the numbers jumped. There was a significant increase. And it was a clear, and if you could make that connection that, what is happening outside, in terms of the market share shift to discount brokers, combined with the number of demat accounts exploding, right? You could make the connection that this is sustainable. So just after Q1, you could have bought the stock, and the stock, since then has done phenomenally well, right? So many examples. I think last few quarters have been, uh, just so many such stocks. In the last year, rather, right? Last year there were just so many stocks. Globus was one of them. One look at the screener, and you will know that. So what? So the thing is, there will be many such stocks where you will see these kind of blockbuster numbers. So how do you decide? Where to bet your money? Right? There'll be in every quarter you'll probably get 100, 200 such stocks where the earnings growth and the top line will be very good, and it will be a surprise for the markets. So the key thing is to that is where the experience comes in. To have that sense of where is it sustainable, where the numbers are likely to be repeated over the next 2-3 quarters, to make that judgment using the points I told you earlier with respect to the sector and all of that commentary and all of that, and to bet on as much as possible. One should try to bet on the leaders. If you have to use a filter, if you're not able to decide कि मैं पैसा किस कंपनी में डालूं, कहाँ डालूं, just go with the leader. Now if it's a textile, go with the KPR or a Vardhaman. If it's if it's any other sector, if it is let us say sugar, you go with a Balrampur. That because if see a sector wise a sector level improvement in fundamentals cannot happen without the leader participating. So the leader, so identifying who the leader is, right? So the leader of this entire EV bull market is Tesla, right? So if you know nothing about the EV and you just want to bet on it, so Tesla is the the torch bearer. If Tesla falls, all of this EV stories will just that is one variable. If you track one variable, it is Tesla. So similarly, one good way to filter is to always look at the number one, number two, and instead of going down the ladder, because those down the ladder stocks will be much more volatile. Because these earnings based plays, you have to hold them for a few quarters or maybe an year or so sometimes. And in that period, there'll always be corrections, market corrections, market wide corrections. So if you own some unknown, second rung or third rung name, what will happen is the market will scare you out. These stocks for no reason will fall 20-30%, even though the earnings are good. Just because the broader market has fallen, these stocks also will fall. And then you will get scared out of them. So the best way to do this is, to stick to the larger names, because they will typically, if these fall 30%, they'll fall only 10-15%. That will be much more, easier for you to hold on and participate in that, re-rating.
Sure. So, one stock which is getting re-rated, or in fact, the whole pack, I would say, is ICICI Bank and to an extent, even Axis Bank. So, banking as a sector, as such, the whole sector is getting re-rated. So, now I'm not asking for a specific view on the stock, but what is happening in the banking space, and how can investor make something out of it?
Yeah. So one of the key things which I probably haven't mentioned so far, which I mentioned in my blog also, is the concept of neglect, right? So what was happening with these banks post COVID was, there was a neglect. Everybody had come to this foregone conclusion that the books are hit very badly, and the books are beyond repair for at least next few quarters, right? But because the Indian financials, they and the RBI, right, you have to commend both of them, so both the companies as well as the regulator, they have done a lot of accelerated the provisioning, much more than what was mandated by the RBI. And a lot of them have actually if you look at the net NPAs, post provisioning, a lot of them have sailed through this crisis much better than what the market anticipated. And that is what is leading to this sort of a re-rating. Although even today, most of these stocks, if you look at them, they have not gone anywhere for the last 1 year. If you look at the 1 year returns, they're more or less flat, or not high, not gone up a lot. So it is one factor was neglect, right? And the second factor is the valuations themselves had become very because of neglect, the valuations themselves had become very less. If you look at the any of these names, the valuations that they enjoyed in the past, excuse- the valuations they enjoyed in the past, they had seen a large time wise as well as price wise correction. So I think they all came to a point whereby everybody who had to sell had already sold financials, and people, nobody wanted to touch them because they were the worst hit, and nobody wanted another third wave, fourth wave, and all of that, because if any such thing materialized, then the financials would get hit the worst. So a lot of institutional money went out of it, uh, and I think that went overboard, as it usually does in the markets. And now what we are seeing is more of a mean reversion, is what I think. It's not that the numbers have started improving materially. uh, the numbers are good, but nothing explosive or blockbuster yet. So I think it's more of a mean reversion. What has happened so far. Whether it continues or not is something that remains to be seen.
श्योर। तो अब हम अपने शो के अंत में आ गए, लेकिन अंत में जाने से पहले एक लास्ट सवाल मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ, वो है इंटरनेट स्टार्टअप्स जो आ रहे हैं। सो people have been forecasting earnings in 10-20 years down the line, and they are still these stocks, despite the correction, इन stocks में अभी भी काफ़ी जो PE है वो काफ़ी बड़ा है। सो आपका क्या इस पे क्या व्यू है, ऑल दीज स्टार्टअप स्टॉक्स?
हाँ, मतलब इसमें क्या होता है ना कि इनको इनमें इसमें इन्वेस्ट करने का एक अलग माइंडसेट चाहिए। हम लोग वी आर यूज्ड टू इन्वेस्टिंग इन वन टाइप ऑफ कंपनीज, जो हमारे एशियन पेंट्स हैं, और या हिंदुस्तान लीवर है, या आईसीआईसीआई बैंक, एचडीएफसी बैंक। तो इन कंपनीज को एनालाइज करना और जो ई कॉमर्स स्टार्टअप्स है उनको एनालाइज करना, दो बहुत ही अलग चीजें हैं। तो नंबर वन, ये हमको आइडेंटिफाई कर लेना चाहिए कि नाउ वी आर डीलिंग विद समथिंग टोटली डिफरेंट। तो इनका इनका जो बिजनेस मॉडल है, वो बहुत अलग है फ्रॉम द ट्रेडिशनल बिजनेस मॉडल। even the best of the best, miss like Warren Buffett, चार्ली मंगर, आपने चार्ली मंगर को कोट किया इनिशियली, दे ऑल एडमिटेड कि हम लोगों ने अमेजोन को, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट को मिस कर दिया। दे मिस दैट होल बस, बिकॉज व्हाट इज द लर्निंग इज दैट कि वो लोग इन कंपनीज को अपने पुराने तरीके से ही एनालाइज कर रहे थे कि अरे इसके पास अर्निंग्स नहीं है, और जितना उनका जो स्केल बड़ा है, नोबडी इन्होंने इमेजिन ही नहीं किया कि इस स्केल पे अमेजोन ग्रो कर सकता है, इस ग्लोबल स्केल पे उसके नंबर्स, उनके मार्केट कैप्स आप देखिए, 1 ट्रिलियन, 1.5 ट्रिलियन, 2 ट्रिलियन। सो जो स्केल जो इन लोगों ने कंपनीज ने किया है वो अनइमेजिनेबल है। सो टेक्नोलॉजी कंपनी में क्या होता है, दैट इज एग्जैक्टली द थिंग। टेक्नोलॉजी कंपनी में क्या होता है कि आपके सारे कॉस्ट्स जो है वो आप अपफ्रंट स्पेंड करते हो, और एक बार आपने स्पेंड कर दिया और आपका एक प्रोडक्ट बन गया, उसके बाद आपका जो आप उसके बाद पूरी जिंदगी आपको उसके अर्निंग्स मिलते रहते हैं, और योर इंक्रीमेंटल स्पेंड इज वेरी वेरी लेस, और आपको ऑलमोस्ट इन्फानाइट स्केलेबिलिटी है। मतलब आपका एक बार प्रोडक्ट बन गया, अभी आप अगर एशियन पेंट्स वाला पेंट बेच रहा है, तो उसको he has to put physical factories ना, he cannot just scale beyond a point. बट डिजिटल और ई कॉमर्स और इस स्पेस में ऐसा नहीं होता है। वंस यू हैव
ऑपरेशनल लेवरेज काफी बड़ा मिल जाता है उनको।
ह्यूज मिल जाता है। इफ यू बिल्ट अ टिकटॉक, you have the whole world as your audience. Now the point is, not everybody can become TikTok, but the potential is there. Every company has that potential. So that is why इनको एनालाइज करने का पी रेशो वगैरह इसमें काम नहीं करता है, क्योंकि पी रेशो आपको बता रहा है कि आपके करंट अर्निंग्स का और प्राइस का क्या रिलेशनशिप है। तो इनका, जैसे मैंने बोला कि मार्केट नॉर्मल कंपनीज का 2-3 क्वार्टर का आगे देखता है, इन कंपनीज का आपको मेरे ख्याल से 2-3 साल मतलब वैसा व्यू रखना पड़ेगा कि 3-4 साल बाद क्या बन सकते हैं ये। So, उस बेसिस पे और उनका जो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है, वो प्रॉफिट्स पे आजकल इसका वैल्यूएशन नहीं होता है। यू ऑल यू हैव टू लुक एट इज रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ। अगर कोई कंपनी 100% रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ कर रही है, एंड 100% रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ भी कहाँ से आ रहा है, बिकॉज दे आर यूजिंग, एक्चुअली उनका प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी काफी हाई रहता है, बट वो क्या करते हैं, पूरा का पूरा जो पैसा उनके पास आ रहा है वो पूरा अपने रेवेन्यू बढ़ाने में लगा देते हैं। तो they have huge advertising spends. They have, you look at Nika or something, and it has a huge M&A advertising spend. If you look at the gross margins of Nika, they are quite high, but when you come to the operating margins, it's at a loss. So all the money is going in building your brand and building your platform and building your audience, because once that is done, then paisa, money will just flow. But the point is, the success rate also is not so high. One guy, it's like a winner takes all kind of a thing in technology. So वो winner कौन है? Those are the bets these private equity guys are making, right? So everybody will back one large guy. But I think basic conclusion मैं क्या बोलूँगा कि आप ट्रेडिशनल माइंडसेट लेके इनको एनालाइज करने की कोशिश मत कीजिए। इसको एनालाइज करने के लिए एक अलग सोच, एक अलग माइंडसेट चाहिए, और आपको मिनिमम 4-5 साल का एक व्यू पॉइंट रख के आपको इनको एनालाइज करना पड़ेगा।
श्योर। तो जो मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव है ये कि जो जैसे पी इन्वेस्टर्स इन कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट करते तो वो एक कंपनी में सिर्फ इन्वेस्ट नहीं करते, दे मेक अ बकेट ऑफ दीज इन्वेस्टमेंट्स। तो आप भी उन्हीं की तरह इन्वेस्ट कीजिए। डोंट जस्ट बाय वन जोमेटो, यू कैन बाय लाइक 10 डिफरेंट स्टॉक्स विच आर सिमिलर टू जोमेटो, एंड देन सी 5 years डाउन द लाइन कौन सा इसमें से आगे जाके बड़ा कंपनी सर्वाइव करती है और कौन बड़ी बनती है। तो शायद आपका जो सक्सेस रेट रेशियो होगा ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो पे वो ज़्यादा हो सकता है।
Absolutely, you have to think like a VC. Absolutely,
या
in these companies.
श्योर। तो हम अपने शो के अंत पे आ चुके हैं। तो प्रभाकर जी, इससे पहले कि हम आपको जाने दें, हम एक रैपिड फायर राउंड रखते हैं ताकि हम एक मार्केट से अलग नोट पे एंड कर सके। तो मेरा पहला सवाल ये रहेगा कि व्हाट इज़ योर फेवरेट बुक?
My favorite book would be One Upon Wall Street.
वन अपॉन वॉल स्ट्रीट बाय पीटर लिंच। एंड व्हाट आर यू वाचिंग दीज डेज?
I actually stopped watching television completely. So it's mostly reading stuff all over the internet. Nothing
Okay, so
specific.
so a blog or a website that you would like to refer to our viewers?
Okay, something that I read regularly is this blog called Alpha Ideas by Nitin. I think he sends out a list of very nice articles every morning. So if you read all of them, I think your knowledge as well as you learn a lot of things. It's varied across different segments of the market. So it will have current news, it will have behavioral stuff. So I would recommend everybody read that link fest every day.
Sure. And one memorable day of your life?
I think it's not one day, but I think getting to start Samviti, it was a dream. It was always, because I was always working in the tech space, and in the back of my mind I always wanted to manage funds, right? So I think that period when we started Samriti, was something which was very special to me, because after all these years, I was finally able to do what I love for a living.
Sure. And one life lesson that you'd like to share with all of us?
I think this is something even I'm trying to imbibe. So the most important, one of the things that I've learned is the most important thing in life is to focus. The most important thing is to focus. You have to figure out where are you going to put your energies, right? Because your energies are limited, right? So you if you do 10 different things, then you'll be mediocre in everything. So one of the key things that I am trying to imbibe personally is to try to focus, try to find out that one thing that you really want to do, and just give all your energy, at least most of your energy, to that particular thing.
Sure. So that's a great piece of advice, especially in today's world where there's a lot of noise. तो आज की दुनिया में ये चीज़ पे फोकस पे ही फोकस करना बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. ओके. सो थैंक्स अ लॉट प्रभाकर जी, आपने हमारे साथ समय निकाला और हमारे व्यूअर्स के लिए भी समय निकाला और आपकी इनसाइट्स शेयर की. सो आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू वंस अगेन फॉर कमिंग ऑन आवर शो एंड शेयरिंग योर इनसाइट्स विद अस.
थैंक यू अपूर्व, माय प्लेजर.
तो ये थे प्रभाकर कुडवा जी. इनके साथ हुए पूरे कॉन्वर्सेशन में हमने कंपनीज की क्वार्टरली अर्निंग्स को कैसे इवेल्युएट करते हैं इस बारे में बात की. तो इसमें कंपनी की मैनेजमेंट, कंपनी की सेल्स ग्रोथ, इंडस्ट्री की सेल्स ग्रोथ कैसी हो रही है, इन चीज़ों पे हमने फोकस किया. इसके बाद कंपनी से एग्जिट लेते वक्त आपको क्या क्या चीज़ों पे गौर करना चाहिए, ये हमने देखा. इसके अलावा हमने बहुत सारे केस स्टडीज और एग्जाम्पल्स भी देखे जिनसे आपको कंपनीज की क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट्स को इवेल्युएट करना बहुत ही आसान हो गया रहेगा. अगर आपको ये एपिसोड पसंद आया तो हमारी चैनल को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बहुत सारे लोगों के साथ शेयर भी कीजिए ताकि उन्हें भी इसका फ़ायदा मिल सके. तो मिलते हैं अगले एपिसोड में ऐसे ही एक इंटरेस्टिंग गेस्ट के साथ एक नए टॉपिक को लेकर. थैंक यू.
तो हमारा इन्वेस्टमेंट काफी छोटा हो जाता है अगर आप देखोगे तो कॉल ऑप्शन पे, और रिवॉर्ड बड़े बड़े मिलते हैं हमको. जैसे मैंने कल अभी आपको बताऊं, मैंने 16,800 का कॉल ऑप्शन किया था आउट ऑफ मनी, नो डाउट, और बॉटम पे लिया था, मतलब सपोर्ट के पास, राइट, क्योंकि 16,200 समथिंग वाज गुड सपोर्ट. अगर आप चार्ट देखोगे तो पैरेलल चैनल बन रहा है.